Regis asks them if they don't speak English and Spanish. And then Regis says car names, and then they react to that. And you saw Paul Bearer with his face just permanently mutated. Yes, yes.
This was easily top of the WrestleMania list for me.
This match.
This match. Everything about this match. This was art. This was cinema. Whatever you want to call it. If you didn't feel anything in this match, then you might not be a wrestling fan.
Well, that brings us to WrestleMania 7. It's 1991. We're in Los Angeles, California. And Willie Nelson, he opened up with America the Beautiful. Nelson was sporting the Bret Hart shades. And I just want to say Willie Nelson is much better than the War and Treaty.
Oh, I want to say, first of all, was Willie Nelson even really singing? Because it didn't seem like the thing was matching up. That's number one. Number two, This is 1991 and he looks old then.
He always looks old.
Yeah. Were you ever not old?
Yeah.
Just one of those people who just always look old.
So Gorilla Monsoon and Hacksaw Jim Duggan start off on commentary. Duggan comes out dressed as Uncle Sam, because of course he would. Duggan says you could feel that it's the big one. And then he starts nodding his head like a trainable while Monsoon speaks.
And sticking his tongue out.
Yeah.
Monsoon, he's like, and joining us doing the color commentary for tonight, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be a long pay-per-view.
Right.
Like all night?
I'm like, man, we lost Jesse and the first thing we get is Duggan?
I'll give him his credit. He actually did pretty good.
He was the best one. Well, aside from Heenan.
Yeah. Heenan's just on a different level, but
right.
Yeah. Hacksaw, he didn't. At some points, I forgot like who he was. It's like just listening is like, oh yeah, that's Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
He did color, but it was very legitimate. Is Duggan the best in the world in 1991?
Come on. But I was thinking, and he's not even like, oh, after everything he says, because I had honestly expected that. But I was like, no, he's actually doing good, and he's taking it serious. So
yeah. Wasn't like that Lord Alfred Hayes guy.
The little British guy?
Yeah. So Haku and the Barbarian with Bobby the Brain Heenan versus the Rockers, our curtain jerker this evening. And before the match, some guy talks to the Rockers backstage. The guy says Haku and the Barbarian are the biggest challenge they've had yet, in size and in sheer force. And they've been unmatched since they've come to the WWE. Jannetty says that they're big and strong, but since the beginning of time, the Rockers have been defying the odds. And they're also tag team specialists. Shawn Michaels, who's back to wearing his little wig, says that no doubt Haku and Barbarian are the baddest, but what is that going to make us when we beat you? The Rockers are going to do what we always do. Turn heads, turn on crowds, and come out on top. Then they both like do this awkward little rock, rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Like they do the rock motion, and then they leave. So we cut back to the ring. Haku and the Barbarian, they're waiting. Starts off classic brutes versus high flyers. And the big men underestimate the Rocker's speed. They both eat a super kick. And I think this might be the debut of Shawn Michaels' super kick.
Well, he certainly didn't do one last time because, they were pretty much getting their ass beat by, I don't know, the white African guy and
Akeem and Bossman.
Yeah.
The Twin Towers, I think.
Yeah. And also, by the way, here we are again. They're just facing these oversized opponents. It's like their thing.
So then Heenan tells Haku and Barbarian to bring one of them over to their corner and just have the match there. So Jannetty becomes the first victim. And he takes a slingshot and a clothesline double team move while getting guillotine on the ropes. It looked fucking awful. Then Jannetty makes a comeback on Barbarian. And he goes for a crossbody from the top rope. Barbarian catches Jannetty. And he counters it into a power slam. And Barbarian, he misses a diving headbutt, allowing Jannetty to make the hot tag. Michaels hits a sunset flip on Haku with the help of Jannetty for 2. Then all hell breaks loose. The Rockers, they hit a double dropkick on Barbarian. He goes out of the ring. Then Jannetty hits Haku with a missile dropkick. And then Michaels hits a diving crossbody for the win. So I think that is that's Michaels' first win at WrestleMania.
Yep, finally got on the board. And it was a pretty decent match, too.
It was all right.
Barbarian, his freaking delts I think that's what they were. Might be the biggest on the roster. He's like Brock Lesnar level there.
No, Brock Lesnar was Warlord.
Oh yeah, forgot about him too. I don't know. Barbarian was pretty jacked. I'm just talking about on the delts or the trap area.
Okay. So after the match, Mean Gene, he talks to Regis Philbin, Marla Maples, and Alex Trebek. They're celebrity guests. Regis says he's interviewed all the wrestlers, but he really wants to talk to Earthquake. Maples says she's excited to interview all the wrestlers in the men's locker room, and she won't be afraid to say whose dick is very small. And then Trebek does a little Jeopardy bit with Mean Gene. After that, we have Dino Bravo versus the Texas Tornado.
Mr. WrestleMania, Dino Bravo. He's been on every WrestleMania.
Yeah? Are you familiar with the Texas Tornado?
No.
That's Kerry Von Erich. He's a member
Which is good timing because there's the Von Erich movie coming out soon.
Yep.
He was major over too. I mean, I know of the whole Von Erich lore. I don't know. They're like the first family of wrestling, if you will. Like any old timer, when they hear that you like wrestling, that's the first thing they go to. Oh, you know the Von Erichs?
Especially in Texas.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good to see a little Kerry Von Erich.
But you didn't know who it was.
I didn't. I didn't, but they did.
Okay. I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I went through like a Von Erich kick, and their matches are just very...
it would be old school wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, very rugged. So Heenan's on commentary with this one, so good deal. I thought they were going to switch him every match. I think that's why I wrote that down. So it takes Von Erich way too long to get his coat off. So Bravo just kind of beats on him for a couple minutes while Kerry just takes his time getting that damn coat off. Kerry locks in his iron claw. Bravo gets the ropes to break the hold. Kerry then shoots off the ropes and nails Bravo with a spinning right hook for the win. I think they called it the Texas Tornado. It looked like it connected in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
And Kerry also looked all kinds of fucked up. I don't know if he was just confused or excited or if he was on something, but he was just like, oh. Also, him doing the finger guns in hindsight was equally fucked up because he ended it. He ended himself via gunshot.
Oh, well, there you go. I was gonna say that goes into me not knowing too much about him. So
apparently, you don't know too much about the lore either.
Okay, I'm a poser.
God.
I mean, they were before my time. What do you want me to do? Go back?
Yeah, do your research.
I'm gonna watch the movie. That'll tell me everything.
No, not the movie. Well, I guess you could watch the movie. What is it? The Dark Side of the Ring or whatever? They're free on YouTube.
I'll just watch the movie.
Or you can watch a 2-hour movie. Whatever.
Yes. I'm not gonna go to theaters and see it. I'll just say that. I'll get it on HBO Max, which apparently is coming to Max. When it comes on Max, I'll watch it then.
So the Warlord versus the British Bulldogs next. Before the match, some guy talks to Slick and the Warlord backstage. The guy says that Warlord said that he's going to be dog collar British Bulldog. And then Slick says, claim? That was a guarantee. Look at Warlord. It's going to take more than one dog to put this man down. Davey boy, prepare to get fixed, because every dog knows when you gotta go, you gotta go. Warlord, who's wearing a Kano mask from Mortal Kombat, says no one has escaped his full Nelson, and the British Bulldog will be no exception to that rule. Ha 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 ha. And then Slick says, ooh, Davey boy, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and you about to be devoured. Slick and Warlord both laugh maniacally, and Slick has elevated to my favorite WWF character.
Yeah, he's pretty entertaining there.
Yes. I had no idea what he was saying. I don't think he had any idea what he was saying. When he said the divide, his mouth didn't even move. It's great. Love me some Slick. So then we go to British Bulldog and Mean Gene in the other area of the back. Bulldog has a unique hair choice that combines braids with a mullet. And Bulldog says he will escape the full Nelson, and there's no one that he can't power slam. The Bulldog's Bulldog Winston says that there's no bull in this British Bulldog. Gene belly laughs.
Flat.
Well, just the smile that Bulldog gave. There's no bull in this Bulldog.
Yeah.
And then Gene just did that forced belly laugh. He said, "I'll be doggone."
And the British Bulldog, he said, "There's no man on this roster." Now, obviously, he's not on the roster yet, but I remember I always wanted to find out if he could power slam Yokozuna.
Ooh, yeah.
Like,
Didn't
we
they
never got to
wrestle?
see. I think they did, and he just did a power slam, not the running power slam. Or, I'm sorry, body slam. He did a body
Oh,
slam.
okay.
But yeah, I always wanted to know if he could get the power slam off.
Apparently not. If he just did a body slam,
Well,
that kind of answers the question for you, doesn't it?
Well, he didn't really try though.
Okay. I just think if he could do that, they would have worked that in there. That would have been a good moment.
Right. I don't think anybody could have done that though.
Probably not. No. So then we get to the match. Warlord actually made Bulldog look small, which was interesting because Bulldog was jacked.
Yep.
And this was a decent meat v meat match. Nothing really remarkable, nothing offensive. Warlord, he finally locked on his full Nelson onto a battered Bulldog. And just when it looks like Bulldog is down and out, he breaks free of Warlord's hold. A stunned Warlord, he charges Bulldog, who then lifts Warlord into a power slam for the win. And at least Warlord had a good look. I also liked when Heenan said he couldn't tell whether or not Bulldog had a hold of Warlord's tights when he was pinning him.
Yeah, and it was like clean as day.
Yeah, I can't tell.
He's like, well, if Slick's saying he did, he must have. Like, he's like, let's check the replay here. And then I couldn't tell from that vantage point.
Yeah, and it's right on his hand.
Yeah.
Classic Bobby.
Yep.
So after that, we have the Nasty Boys versus the Hart Foundation for the WWF Tag Team Championship. And before this match, Mean Gene talks to the Nasty Boys with Jimmy Hart. And Hart says that they're mean and nasty and they're going to be the new tag team champions. The Nasty Boys! Sag says it's their time and the Hart Foundation's going to find out what Nasty Sensation's all about. Knob says they're going to put an end to the stinking pink. And can I say that on YouTube?
Can he say it on Peacock?
And become the new World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. I know they couldn't say that.
Yeah, then they get beeped.
Then Knobs steals Gene's pocket square, blows his nose with it. Then Sags, without even folding it into a clean section, blows his nose into Gene's hanky too. Then Knobs blows his nose into Gene's hanky a second time. Then he stuffs it back in Gene's pocket because they're nasty.
Yep.
Knobs may have been on the same stuff Kerry Von Erich was on. He was pretty manic. So after that, some guy talks to the Hart Foundation. Neidhart says to crack a foundation, you have to start at the bottom, and that's where the Nasty Boys are if they think they can take our belts away from us. Bret Hart says the Hart Foundation doesn't think the Nasty Boys are nasty. He thinks they're scum and heartless. As the Nasty Boys walk to the ring, Monsoon and Heenan remind us of how nasty the Nasty Boys are. I also noticed that Jimmy Hart is wearing a motorcycle helmet.
Is that what that was?
Yep.
Okay.
A Hart Foundation comes out, and Neidhart is wearing an albino New Jack City hat.
Mm-hmm. Very out of place for him, too.
It was.
Or maybe it wasn't, but it didn't look right.
Maybe it was a Canadian thing. So the Hart Foundation was able to actually get a good match out of the Nasty Boys. Lots of outdated tag stuff, like Knobs and Sags trying to get Neidhart to come into the ring so it would distract the refs so they can double team Bret. And, they get holds and hold onto the ropes. And, of course, Jimmy was on the floor with the megaphone.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do the fucking tables and the outside bullshit that the Nasty Boys usually do. And then they do...
I thought they looked pretty good here.
Yeah. And then they also did the stuff where, like, one of them will get the tag in, but the ref doesn't see it. So then they kick him out. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Get out.
Yeah.
The finish made sense at the end. Knobs had Neidhart in a headlock in the middle of the ring. Bret, he starts chasing Sags around. Neidhart, he shoots Knobs in the rope just as Sags gets in the ring. He's escaping from Bret, right? So then the Nasty Boys, they end up running into each other. Then the Hart Foundation, they hit the heart attack on Knobs. But Hebner, he doesn't give a shit about anything but Bret Hart being in the ring. so he misses Neidhart pinning Knobs. He also misses Jimmy Hart tossing the helmet to Sax so he can cream Neidhart in the back of the head with it. And then Knobs rolls over onto Neidhart. He gets the win. Jimmy Hart grabs onto Brett's leg to prevent him from saving Neidhart too, which was a good little touch. The Nasty Boys and Jimmy Hart, they celebrate, and I thought this was good shit.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match, and just like that, and new tag team champions, the Nasty Boys.
Yeah, don't like the Nasty Boys, but I did like that match.
I thought they were okay here.
Yeah.
I like the black attire. They weren't WCW Nasty Boys were just
Tables.
I don't know.
I just remember tables and just
like hardcore
split screen and yeah. So after that, we have the model Rick Martel versus Jake the Snake Roberts in a blindfold match. So before the match, they showed us how this feud started. Brother Love, he's interviewing Roberts. Then Martel, he starts spraying Roberts' snake, and Jake loses his mind. So when Jake tries to save his snake, Martel sprays the motherfucker in the eyes. As a result of this dastardly attack, Jake is blind. So then there's a later segment, or not a segment, but a later show where Martel's mocking Jake's new handicap by asking him how many fingers he's holding up during the interview. Then Martel just hauls off and slaps Jake. Then Jake DDT's Brother Love. Roddy Piper, who's on commentary, just busts a nut over this. And then after the DDT, Jake has his blind man sunglasses, and they fall off. And it's revealed that Jay's eyes. It's revealed that Jay's eyes are all fucked up, or at least one of them is. And he kept pointing to it too, like look at
he
this,
got it right up in the camera.
Yeah, look at this.
And I want to say, you praise Bianca Belair for selling the mist of Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got nothing on this Jake Roberts selling. It was just perfume in the eyes. Now he's got like one glass on it.
Yeah, I had to ask, like, what the fuck does Martel tan himself with?
I don't know. He's dark as hell.
I also want to know why any responsible company would allow somebody who looks like a toxic Avenger on TV. Like, I'm sorry, Jake. I can't let you all consciousness go out there. It's not for us. It's for you. It's for your own protection.
I mean, look at your eye, man.
Yeah.
I actually remember back when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like, oh man, it helped sell that perfume, or cologne, whatever it is.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it sold it so well. It was like, yeah, you definitely don't want to get sprayed by that shit.
So then it shows Roberts still blind interfering with a match between Martel and Ortiz. Somehow Jake found his way to the ring. Maybe there was context. Maybe he was sitting outside on ringside. But just watching it how I watched it, I envisioned this blind man driving from his house, stumbling from the parking lot through the ticket area, arguing with security. I'm Jake Roberts. Look at my eye. And then finding his way all the way to the ring just so he can attack the wrong guy.
It was a valiant effort, though. All that was on his mind was revenge. The guy blinded him, for Christ's sakes.
Well, that's okay, because Ortiz didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. So after that, we cut to Jake standing in the locker room with normal eyes. He says everyone knows that a man has 5 senses, but a snake has 6, and they do it better in the dark. So Martel is waiting in the ring. Jake comes out with a bag like Santa Claus. Like, seriously, Damien must have got to Coco's parrot. And then Jake and Martel are blindfolded. So Jake didn't have his eyesight for however many weeks, decides to, I don't need my eyesight again. I could have this match with normal eyesight.
Now, I know he showed that his eyes were back to normal, but I took this as we're evening the playing field because I'm still blind. And that's kind of also how they played it on commentary. Oh, he can't see. Then it's the only way to make it even.
Okay, if that's the case, then that makes sense. Because I was thinking, well, if they still had his eye fucked up, then yeah, that makes sense that they would have a blindfold match. But I don't see why you would have a blindfold match if you can perfectly see. Why would you take your sight away again if you just got it back?
Right, yeah.
So this match starts, and it's 8 minutes of 2 wrestlers with bags over their heads just stumbling around the ring with their arms just outstretched. Jake even uses the crowd to locate Martel, which never worked. And they started out. Well, he'd move, but then Jake would like go the complete opposite direction of where they yayed. And
yeah,
then,
I didn't know if I didn't know how dark those bags were. Are they playing this that well? Because then they're doing too much. If they're really doing the blind thing. But yeah, there were some moments that you could tell that they could see.
Especially when Martel grabbed that chair. He got out, grabbed that chair perfectly, and then now I can't see. Let me just poke around. And then he got in the ring perfectly.
Yeah, and then there was also moments where like Martel, at the very beginning, he tried to do the back body drop, and he whips him into the ropes, and then Jake runs past him as he's
He
bent
sidestepped
over.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
and
cool.
he's bent over, and they're like, "Well, what was the plan there?"
But yeah, the crowd was really into the whole pointing thing, but then like by the end of it, they're just like, eh.
Yeah, they were just like cheering as he got close.
So then the crowd, they chant DDT because they want the shit to be over. Jake gets knocked out of the ring. Martel, being the genius, follows him out. Yeah, this is when he grabs the chair. He starts poking around blindly. Then he nails the ring post. Martel somehow gets Jake in a Boston Crab. Jake uses the ref as leverage to push Martel out of the hold. Jake hits a DDT for the win. And then Jake breaks Martel's sprayer and wraps his snake around Martel.
Yep, gotta get that snake play in there.
So then they cut to Marla Maples in the wrestling locker room. The Nasty Boys, Jimmy Hart, Earthquake, the Mounty, and Dino Bravo are all cheering, pouring alcohol over each other with Marla Maples, who is wearing a nice, skimpy dress. Things did not end well for her. Jimmy Snuka versus The Undertaker. Holy fuck, The Undertaker was amazing. Huge, fast, athletic. The punches that Snuka landed, like he would turn like Jason.
Yep.
And Taker made short work of Snuka. One hell of a match. Only blemish was when Taker caught Snuka within the crossbody. Supposed to turn into a tombstone, but it looked like he lost his hold. So he had to just do it a different way. Still a good match. This is his first WrestleMania.
Yep. And I will say, I got my little chills or goosebumps, whatever you want to call them, when I heard the gong.
I enjoy that he didn't have the whole purple lighting and the lightning and shit and the smoke. For some reason, it looked creepier. No. I don't know. It just looked creepier normal.
Yeah.
And
this was before they put all the stuff into it.
And you saw Paul Bearer with his face just permanently mutated. And that yes.
And they were asking questions about who's in that urn. Because, it was early Undertaker, so he was always moving towards the urn.
Right.
Vintage Undertaker, early Undertaker, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now 1-0 at WrestleMania.
1-0. So after that, Macho King Randy Savage with Queen Sherry faced the Ultimate Warrior in a loser retires match. So Savage wants the title that he lost at WrestleMania 5, so he assaults Warrior with his scepter because Warrior had the title. Then Sherry offers Warrior a blowjob in exchange for the title shot for Macho Man. Warrior spits, shakes his face violently, just his face, and then he says, "No!" in Sherry's face as she cries out in despair.
And the camera shot on him shaking like that was just beautiful.
I just don't get how that was the only part of him that was moving. It's weird.
I know, and he was like really convulsing there too.
I gotta say, Warrior, he may not have given a shit about wrestling, but from what I've seen, he's putting in an effort. The small sample size that we have, I guess.
Right, yeah.
So later, Savage cost Warrior the title against Slaughter, which I don't know how that fits into his plan of getting the title back, but that's what he does.
It's because Warrior wouldn't give him a title shot, so then now you can't have the title then.
Okay. Savage attacks Warrior with a camera light and a scepter, allowing Slaughter to secure the pin, which I thought it was kind of funny. Savage using the camera light. Like, man, it's just wrestling, dude. So naturally, Warrior wants Savage's ass, and both men have their careers on the line. And we find out Elizabeth is watching in the stands. Warrior actually walks to the ring, not something that I'm used to seeing. And he also had his knee pads with his and Savage's face on them. Sherry gets in the ring, and good job, Sherry. Just for being there. Good job. Warrior throws Savage into her, Sherry rolls out of the ring, and then Warrior just looks at her with disgust. Like, how dare you get hurt? Having a man being thrown into you. Warrior catches Savage out of a diving crossbody and then just sets him down and proceeds to slap the taste out of his mouth, which I thought was fucking awesome. If I wasn't a fan of Warrior, that would make me a fan of Warrior.
Fair enough.
He goes for a splash and misses Savage. And he slams his head in the mat for 2. Sherry distracts the ref as Warrior gets Savage into a small package. The ref finally sees it. Savage kicks out. And as the Warrior is yelling at the ref, Savage slams Warrior into the ref and knocks him out. And Savage grabs Warrior and tells Sherry to nail him with her shoe. Sherry misses Warrior, hits Savage. The Warrior tries to chase down Sherry. Then he almost gets pinned by Savage with a schoolboy. And then finally, Savage hits his elbow. And then he hits another one. And then he hits another one. Savage hits the Ultimate Warrior with 5 flying elbows.
Consecutively.
And Warrior kicks out of all of that shit. And to Warrior's credit, he didn't just stand up and stop selling it. He got 5 fucking elbow drops and the dude's crawling around. I don't know. It looked like he was in pain to me. Yeah, he could have just done the Warrior shit and just got up. Or like Hulk Hogan, he would have just, oh, you done fucked up now, Savage. Give me 5 elbow drops to the throat.
Well, he had to get to the ropes, which is what he did. Because the ropes is where he draws his power from.
But he did get to the ropes.
So he kicked out and he just slowly started crawling towards the rope so he can get his power.
So Warrior, he got to the ropes, he got his power back, and he finally hits his gorilla press slam and a splash. But then Savage kicks out. And this confuses the fuck out of Warrior. He starts questioning his warriors. He's asking if his time's ended. He's like, what do I have to do? What's it going to take? Warrior starts to leave the ring while Hebner is like, dude, you just kicked out of 1 pin. It's going to be okay. And finally, the Warrior finds his powers again and nails Savage with 3 running shoulder tackles. And then he puts his foot on Savage and secures the victory. Warrior celebrates over Savage as Sherry cries outside the ring. So then after the match, Sherry tosses Hebner out of the ring and she starts yelling at Savage and berating him. Then she starts kicking the shit out of him. Like she's slamming his head on the mat and kicking him. It's actually kind of brutal. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, she's really giving him a number.
So then out of nowhere, Miss Elizabeth jumps over the rail, hits the ring, and dumps Sherry's ass out of the ring. Elizabeth tends to Savage, who finally realizes that she's there. And he's beside himself. And Elizabeth is all in tears. And after a long pause and second guessing by Savage, they finally look at each other in the eyes and they embrace the way that only 2 lovers can really embrace. Savage puts Elizabeth on his shoulders, and the greatest love story in wrestling history has its happy ending. And then Elizabeth holds the ropes for Randy so he can leave the ring. But he says, no, bitch, I hold them for you.
Speaking of which, during the match, did you catch the Ultimate Warrior when he was chasing down Sherry? He said, come here, bitch. Like he was doing the finger wave. He was like, come here, bitch.
Yeah, this was heavy.
This was easily, at least for me now, there were only 7 WrestleManias in, but this match is the top of the WrestleMania list for me. Easy.
This match. Everything
about this match. This was art. This was cinema. Whatever you want to call it. If you didn't feel anything in this match, then you might not be a wrestling fan. Everything about this match was spot on and perfect.
The Elizabeth stuff got me off guard. I remember writing my notes and then I'm like, why is it so hard to see? Why can't I fucking see the screen?
Yeah, person walks in. What are you doing? It's the onions.
He just lost to the Ultimate Warrior. And Green Sherry was beating him up. And Miss Elizabeth threw her out of the ring. Yeah, it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that. I knew that this moment happened. I just didn't know when it happened. So when it happened, it got me good.
Yeah,
and this aged well. The match itself, I really wish he didn't do 5 elbow drops.
Funny thing is, I've been searching for this match for so long because I remember there was a match where Macho Man dropped the consecutive elbow drops and the Warrior kicked out. And I've been looking for that match. Now I finally found it. I just think everything about this was spot on. The Warrior walking out as opposed to running 150 miles, as they say, because the enormity of this match. And then
Well, they had a long match.
That too. But I mean, he had a motor like no other. So he had a
motor for about 4 or 5 minutes. I don't know about no 20-minute match. Well, I guess he did with Hogan. I stand corrected.
And you know, they're not like doing the flip-flop kind of matches. They're telling a story as they were.
True.
And then the Macho Man, he drops his 5 elbow drops, clean as day, and then the Warrior kicks out.
There was one of them. It looked like the point of his elbow just went right into his Adam's apple. It looked brutal.
I think, one of them he started bleeding on the jaw.
There's a thud.
And then Warrior, he kicks out, he makes his way over to the ropes. He gets the one rope and he starts to shake it. It's like, uh-oh, he's warring up here. And then he gets the other rope and then he goes to the second rope. Now he's at the top and he's shaking the rope. There was a point, right? So he hits his finisher. Macho Man kicks out. And now he's looking. They had mentioned it on commentary. No one has ever kicked out of his finisher. So the fact that the Macho Man kicked out, maybe the gods were telling him that it's over for him. And he's looking at his hands. What do you want me to do? And then he starts to leave the ring. That's the point right there. He starts to leave the ring. And if Macho Man didn't attack him, he would have just walked off.
Right.
Right? But if you think about it, the Macho Man, he had just taken the finisher. So he didn't see the Warrior looking at his hands leaving the ring. When he came to, the Warrior was outside of the ring. So it makes sense that he attacked him because he didn't know that the Warrior was leaving. If I were to nitpick a little bit on the match, the flying shoulder tackles, they did take a little bit long because Macho Man fell out of the ring after each one.
He sure did. He flew out of the ring.
Yeah. And then finally, Warrior puts his foot on the chest and he's triumphant. So yeah, I enjoyed the match. Again,
match was good.
Put this on my top, like even over Warrior Hogan.
And Sherry, you could just hear her wailing from I think that's where maybe Woman got her inspiration from.
Yeah, because she lost her meal ticket.
Yeah, like, oh no.
Yeah, they initially said she was out too because she was with the Macho Man, so they're out.
My only issue is just the 5 elbow drops. 2 I could see, and then Macho Man only gets to kick out a 1 splash.
Yeah,
I know it took like 3 of the running shoulder tackle things, but I don't know. That's my only issue with the match. But the Elizabeth stuff more is made up for it.
Yeah, and then even that, she saves Macho Man, and she's trying to console him, and he's still like,
"Get away from me, bitch!"
Yeah, he's still fighting because he doesn't know what the hell's happening. Then he
finally sees her, and he's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
and he's beside himself. Then they just hug, and she's crying, and oh my god, it was good. And then they cut to fans crying.
The women, they were crying too. But yeah, and everybody's crying. Even Gorilla Monsoon's like, the biggest moment in WrestleMania history, and we're witnessing it right now. Everything about it was just spot on. That's why it's my top right now.
Okay.
That can change. I know what match is my favorite of all time. I'm not going to spoil it, but
I don't know. It's going to be hard to beat Hillbilly Jim and King Kong Bundy for me.
Fair enough.
All right, buckle up. Regis talks to The Undertaker and Paul Bearer. Regis tells bad jokes. Taker measures filled in for a coffin. Bearer nods silently. Then Alex Trebek, he interviews Demolition. This is Smash and Crash with Master Fuji. Trebek says some shit about using Jeopardy skills in the WWF. Smash says only Fuji has the answers. Crash says Fuji knows all about pain and torture and suffering. Fuji says their Jap opponents will know all about those things. And then Regis talks to Tenryu and Katao. They don't understand his questions. Regis asks them if they don't speak English and Spanish. And then Regis says car names, and then they react to that.
Yes. And then they finally say Kelly, the other one.
Oh, yeah. Regis and Kathy Lee. He also did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Okay. But his big thing was the talk show.
Our generation, his big thing would be Regis and Kathy Lee. Some people might know him from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Okay. I was just trying to remember what was his thing.
Yeah. He was allegedly funny. So after Regis, Trebek fucking talks to Jake the Snake Roberts. Trebek is afraid of the snake. The snake wants to be a contestant on Jeopardy. Trebek runs away. After that, Demolition with Master Fuji face Tenryu and Katao. Tenryu hits a powerbomb on Smash for the win. I was pretty amazed that they let two Japanese dudes go over on Demolition, especially since they were unknown Japanese dudes.
Boy, were they unknown, but I think it had to do with it being Crush and not Axe. I don't know what happened there, but clearly they just tried to replace the character.
Well, it also had to do with kind of doing a thing with the Super World of Sports. It was a Japanese promotion. See, Tenryu, he was an All Japan Pro Wrestling star. And Katao, he was an All Japan Pro Wrestling wrestler. And they were in the, I think it's Super World of Sports or some shit. But Katao is most notable for a match that turned into a shoot with Earthquake. And he broke kayfabe by refusing to sell Earthquake's attacks. And he openly stalled the match. He legitimately tried to gouge Earthquake's eyes out. Then afterwards, he picked up the microphone. He announced that wrestling was fake and Earthquake could never really beat him. Japanese wrestlers tried to restrain him, but he was still talking shit. Katao was obviously fired, and so was the booker. So he's pretty infamous.
And they were on the same show again.
This was after, I think.
Oh, okay. And then I didn't get to finish watching it.
But yeah, the Japanese guys won. So after that, Big Boss Man with Bobby the Brain Heenan faced Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental Championship. And before the match, Mean Gene talked to Boss Man. Boss Man said his mama's feelings are hurt. Some guy talks to Mr. Perfect and Heenan after that. Perfect says that he's cool as a cat and he has all the tools to be champion. And we get to the match and Lord Alfred Hayes is on commentary. Hayes was awful. Hayes was the complete opposite of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. This bastion of championship material. Perfect tosses his towel at Boss Man. Boss Man wipes his ass with it. He tosses it at Perfect's face. Perfect wipes his crotch with it. At least I assume so. It's kind of cut off. And he tosses it back at Boss Man. Boss Man spits on Perfect. Perfect slaps Boss Man. Boss Man proceeds to whoop Perfect's ass. Boss Man whips Perfect with his belt in front of the ref. Boss Man counters the Perfect Plutz with a small package for a 2 count. Perfect throws Boss Man face first into the ring steps. Then Heenan starts kicking him. Then out of nowhere, Andre the Giant shows up. And he stares Heenan down. And Perfect exposes the turnbuckle. Andre grabs Perfect's belt. And he starts just going after Heenan. Perfect then tries to grab the belt from Andre, and then Andre just casually clubs Perfect in the head with it. Haku and the Barbarian, they attack Boss Man for the DQ. And then Andre decks Perfect outside the ring. Haku and Barbarian, they go outside the ring so Andre, he can lay them out too.
Poor Andre. They have to walk up to him so he can beat him up.
Yeah. Boss Man's announced the winner, but Perfect's still the champion. Andre walks away. Boss Man stops him so they can raise each other's arms. And this is where we really get to say goodbye to Andre, because this is his final WrestleMania.
And you could tell, because he could barely move out there. He could barely make it to the ring. And then all his punches, he was holding on for support.
Yeah.
Either the ring post or the ring apron. Ming and the Barbarian had to come out towards him. Like, he never got in the ring at all. I just felt bad for him. I was like, why did they even send him out there? I know you want to get him on the card, so just have him out there and like wave at the fans or something.
But yeah, he was in bad shape. So after that, Mean Gene had a thing with Trump, Chuck Norris, Fonzie, and Lou Ferrigno. And I couldn't understand a goddamn word Lou said. And he had the most TV time. Go figure.
Yeah, I didn't really know what he said either. And I had captions on. Still didn't know what he said.
There you go. Next up is Earthquake versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. Valentine eventually gets Quake off his feet, and he goes for a figure 4. Jimmy Hart distracts Valentine. Earthquake recovers, and then he wins with his little bonsai drop thing. And Valentine managed to roll out of the ring before Quake could hit him with the second one.
Yes, now he's added the thing where he jumps around the 3 times. So that's the Earthquake I know. It reminds me of, remember that game on the SNES, the Royal Rumble, and you had Earthquake?
Oh yeah.
It reminds me of that. That game specifically.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that game was a fun time. And then you like knock the ref out, and you knock him out enough, and he'll leave.
What was the one where the Undertaker's arm would turn into a 2x4,
That was
or an actual tombstone?
I forgot the name of it. It was like it was an arcade game.
Okay,
Like an arcade
WrestleMania
style game.
arcade or some shit.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, you keep punching and you just like levitate up in the air, and you're like pretty much fighting like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, that was good shit.
It was their version of NBA Jam.
So next up is Legion of Doom versus Power and Glory. And before the match, some guy talked to Legion of Doom backstage. Animal said that they should have had the title shots tonight if it wasn't for Power and Glory, but now it's their ass, and the Nasty Boys are next. Hawk says when they get done with Power and Glory, they're going to be sour and gory. Yeah?
Yeah. I thought that was the corniest line of the night.
Hawk seems to be an aficionado of the corny ass lines. Would you like to do it?
Oh, what a rush!
So when the match starts, Power and Glory attack Legion of Doom when their backs are turned. Then Animal catches Roman in midair, hits a power slam. I don't think that's right. Paul Roma, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The Legion of Doom, they hit the Doomsday device for the win. Thanks for coming.
Pretty much. It was a quick match. Maybe like a 2-3 minute match.
I think it was shorter than that. So after that was $1 Million Man versus Virgil. Roddy Piper made an appearance. And this match started because Virgil is tired of wiping shit off of Ted DiBiase's shoes, and he's tired of rubbing his toes. So one night, Ted makes Virgil kneel, and Virgil has had enough, and he clocks $1 Million Man with his $1 Million belt. Then they cut to Virgil becoming a thorn in DiBiase's side. Piper helps Virgil beat Haku, which pisses off Ted for some reason. And then Virgil costs DiBiase a match by getting him so pissed off that DiBiase screams at him until he gets counted out. And then this eventually leads to Virgil challenging the $1 Million Man at WrestleMania. So then when we get to the match, Piper comes out with a crutch. Apparently he had a motorcycle accident. And Virgil was trained by Roddy Piper to wrestle like Muhammad Ali. And it was pretty much all Virgil until they decided to actually wrestle. Then DiBiase got the advantage. And DiBiase actually hit a pile driver for a 2 count. DiBiase loses his cool and he shoves Piper to the floor. This pisses off Piper, who uses his crutch to hook the rope, so DiBiase comes flying out of the ring. DiBiase and Piper, they get into it, and it pisses off DiBiase so much, he keeps shouting at Piper until he's counted out, just like what happened to that Virgil match.
Yep, didn't learn his lesson.
Nope. So Virgil beats the $1 Million Man.
But he did kick him. Before he got counted out, he did kick Piper.
Yeah, he did. So after the match, DiBiase locks the $1 Million Dream onto Virgil. And Piper gets in the ring and starts to beat the shit out of DiBiase with his crutch. And then Sensational / Queen Sherry comes out to grab Piper's crutch from behind. And then DiBiase and Sherry proceed to assault a man. Sherry holds Piper's leg while DiBiase chops at Piper with the crutch like it's an axe. Then dumbfuck Piper hits the ref in the balls with his crutch as he was trying to help him.
He was being defiant. He wanted to get up on his own.
Yeah.
And he hit him right in the dick.
Yep. He launched it at him.
And then Heenan's like, he got him good.
Virgil then tells Piper, who is hurt because he was in a motorcycle accident, and not 5 minutes later, he was violently assaulted by Sherry and DiBiase. Now Virgil thinks he has the power of Christ. So he tells Piper to stand up and walk. And of course, Piper stands up, and then Virgil practically carries Piper to the back.
Yeah, a little bit weird on that match.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better had Piper not been there. It was pretty much, he was the focal point of the match.
Right.
DiBiase kept hitting him. Like the first time he just like pushed him over, and then at the end, him trying to get up and Virgil getting a mic. It's like, get up! You can walk! Remind me of like the Ricky Bobby.
Well, it reminded me of those like evangelist programs.
Oh, yeah. You're healed, and they hit you in the forehead.
So next up is the Mounty with Jimmy Hart versus Tito Santana. Santana kicks Mounty's ass the entire match until Hart hands Mounty that weapon, the cattle prod, and Mounty steals one.
And this match was over pretty quick too. It was like, I don't know, a few minutes.
And that brings us to our main event of the evening. We have Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter for the WWF Heavyweight Championship. Before the match, some guy talks to Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan. They play a video of Slaughter burning a Hulk Hogan shirt with General Adnan. General Adnan talks about Hogan's mom and how he's going to fuck his daughter, I assume. And then Slaughter, who is 95% chin, has a message for the leader of the Pukamaniacs. Slaughter says he rules the WWF and we play by his rules. Then they play a video of Slaughter whooping Hogan's ass with a chair. Slaughter teases getting himself disqualified or counted out by allowing Hogan to win the battle, but not the war.
Which she never tries during the match.
Well, he was hitting Hogan with the chair all throughout the match.
I know, but like he didn't do it in front of the ref. The ref's back was turned.
The ref was looking right at it. What are you talking about? There's multiple times he hit him with the chair, and the ref was looking right at him.
Okay, maybe I'll take that back then.
So Mean Gene, he talks to Hogan. Hogan says Slaughter might be laughing now, but after WrestleMania 7, Hogan's going to be the one that gets the last laugh. Hogan then says it was no laughing matter when Slaughter torched the Hogan banner, brother. You try to scorch the dreams of each and every one of my little Hulkamaniacs, and I solemnly swear that that'll never happen again, Sarge. Hogan then says Slaughter has absolutely no idea what secret plan he and his little Hulkamaniacs have in store for him. But I bet it's a couple forehead punches, a big boot, and a leg drop. That's just
and a body slam.
Then they play a video of Slaughter assaulting Hogan with the belt and a riding crop. And then he gets Hogan into a camel clutch. The officials were able to rescue Hogan by grabbing onto Slaughter's chin, his one weak point.
Yeah, they put him in a camel clutch to get him out of the camel clutch.
Hogan rips his shirt off and says Slaughter will have to tear his and America's heart out to keep the WWF belt. Then Hogan says, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light, Sergeant Slaughter, that I'll be the new WWF champion, and you'll just be a victim of Twilight's last dreaming."
And then he poses.
Match starts. They bring out Regis, Trebek, and Marla Maples. That'll put butts in seats. Slaughter's the champion, so naturally he comes out chin first. I like how he just came out with the ominous snare drums.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his iconic music. I said, maybe that's it. But I also didn't remember him being a champion, like the champion.
He was very, well, as you can see, very briefly. He was just a transition. I don't know if they didn't want to do Hogan Warrior 2. I think that kind of fell apart or something. Like, Warrior wasn't cutting it. And Hogan, I think, politicked himself back into it. But I don't think they wanted to do Warrior Hogan 2. So they gave it to Slaughter so he could give it to Hogan.
Okay.
Something like that. Hogan gets a hell of a pop. So Hulkamania is still running wild at this point. Monsoon takes the time to lie to us and say that the attendance tonight is a WrestleMania record. Spoiler, wasn't even close, even at that time.
Well, he kept saying something about it being the largest pay-per-view, which is different than the largest attendance.
I guess.
That wasn't the first time he said it. He said it was pretty much all night. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they just started doing even then, they would still have done, like, WrestleMania 1 through 6, they would have done pay-per-views. How else are you going to watch it? But yeah, it was different than attendance.
I'll have to go back and re-listen, but to me, it seemed like he was talking about the attendance.
Oh. Yeah, I kept hearing the pay-per-view buys thing. Yeah, because when he first said it, I was like, wait a minute. Because you just told us a couple years ago that there's 100,000 people at the Sky Dome. Now you're trying to tell us that 20,000 people is more than 100,000? But then I heard it again. I was like, oh, pay-per-view buys. Okay.
Well, and they had to move because this was supposed to be at the Coliseum, I think. They had to move it because the attendance was so low.
And yeah, they only said it was like 20,000 people there.
So
anyway, yeah. I guess that's not too important.
Slaughter hits Hogan with a chair immediately. Ref looks right at it and does nothing. Later, Hogan blatantly shoves the ref. Hogan beats Slaughter like a government mule until Adnan helps Slaughter get the advantage. Slaughter then proceeds to assault Hogan with a chair and by strangling him with a microphone cord, neither of which results in a countout or disqualification. So Slaughter's plan is failing miserably. Slaughter gets Hogan into a Boston Crab for an unnecessary amount of time, and it was unnecessary because Hogan could have grabbed the ropes at any time. He didn't have to wait so long, but finally he just reached his arm out and finally grabbed him. Slaughter does a stomp to Hogan's kidney from the top rope. Adnan distracts the referee. Then Slaughter hits Hogan with another chair shot, and that makes him bleed. How many chair shots is that?
I lost count.
Yeah, there's a lot of chair shots. And Hebner's just watching it. I don't see anything wrong with this. So Slaughter makes Hogan bleed some more. Then he locks in a camel clutch. Slaughter lets go, stomps Hogan in the back, then locks the camel clutch back on. Naturally, Hogan fights out of the camel clutch despite all the blood loss. But Slaughter rams Hogan in the turnbuckle anyway, so it doesn't matter. And Slaughter drapes the Iraq flag over Hogan and attempts to pin him. This lights a fire in Hogan's ass. Hogan pops right up, rips the Iraqi flag up, and then Hogan starts to hulk up. Then Hogan does a couple forehead punches, a big boot, and then a leg drop for the win. And then Hogan becomes the 3-time winner of the WWF title. Unlike Flair, Hogan has not lost too much blood to celebrate, and he grabs an American flag and starts posing. And Monsoon declares that the war is officially over.
Oh, and by the way, he also at one point wipes his forehead with the flag. The bloody forehead.
Of course he did. So obviously this was the start of the streak. When Hogan was being interviewed after this match, Slaughter attacked Hogan. This pushed their feud into SummerSlam. Savage became a commentator, and Elizabeth actually stuck around, and they got hitched at SummerSlam. It was dubbed the match made in heaven.
I do remember that. Virgil
and DiBiase feuded for a while. The Hart Foundation actually disbanded after this loss, and they went the singles route. Obviously, Hart was successful. Neidhart, not so successful, so he teamed with Owen to form the new foundation. So maybe we'll see Owen next WrestleMania. And like I said, this was the last WrestleMania appearance for Andre. He would make sporadic appearances before passing away in '93.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And next up on the docket is WCW's Great American Bash. Some of the things, at least for me, highlighted here is Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio Jr. for the Cruiserweight title. Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan have a Falls Count Anywhere match. Flair and Anderson settle their differences with Steve Mongo McMichael and Kevin Green. Lex Luger once again faces the Giant for the heavyweight title.
Wait, I thought it was supposed to be DDP.
I don't know. Maybe they'll explain it.
Okay.
And probably the most noteworthy event is Eric Bischoff's interview with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. The Outsiders.
The Outsiders.
So it's starting to pick up WCW-wise.
Yep, it's going to be an interesting turn. About to be the turn of everything, so that's always good.
Yeah, I think it's the Great American Bash, and the Bash at the Beach after that is when they do the dealio.
The start of the 83 weeks.
But yeah, that is WrestleMania 7.
But if you agree with anything, let us know in the comments. If you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow us on the socials, and until next time, top guys.